just tell me what.
All right, man. Welcome back to the Tattoo Improvement Network Fireside Tats podcast. We're still here at Space City, and we got Rik Sharp originally from Ohio, right?
Yep.
And now from down in Tennessee with us. We're in Memphis, but
Okay, sweet. Yeah,
Ish.
we're all in Tennessee.
You know, you were talking about Cookeville. I was like, man, how do I know Cookeville? I don't know if you follow CrossFit at all, but the best CrossFitter in the world.
Oh yeah, Rik Sharp.
Rich Froning, yeah.
His wife's shop is right next to ours.
Oh, really? What's his wife do?
She sells like vintage clothing, or like she goes to California and buys like some kind of fancy clothing and sells it in her store, like a boutique kind of deal. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Is he got kind of a local celebrity there?
Oh yeah. Like when he won last year, like ESPN came and like when he came home, like there was like a whole like interview, and like he's like a really big Christian, and like they adopted a kid, like you know what I mean? Like they're really good people. Like
seems like it.
Like for somebody like that, you sometimes see them to be conceited. You know what I mean? But he seems really down to earth. You know what I mean?
That's what I've noticed. We've got some friends that do a podcast called Barbell Shrugged, and they're there a lot. They're good friends of his, and they podcast with him. So I've seen some good interviews with him. He seems like a genuine guy.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of backstory. Evan Qualls, who we interviewed earlier today, you actually apprenticed, and he's doing some stellar work now.
Yeah, for sure.
And let's just start off with a little bit of that. The story you were telling about. He was your first apprentice. You've taken on a couple since. What were some of the struggles that you had taking on an apprentice from the start?
Just really where to take him. You know what I mean? What did he need? What to know? But I remember things that like when I had my apprenticeship was very, do this kind of deal, and the first thing I did with him really was just like make him tear down setup every single time I tattooed. That way, because I remember the first time I tattooed, like setting up was more nerve-wracking than like actually tattooing, because I didn't really do it enough to understand what I was looking to do.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. I was like, this is very simple. For a year you're gonna tear me down, set me up, you know what I mean? Draw stuff, do stencils, anything that I needed. I was basically, just there to do all of my dirty work.
Did you have to do a lot of guidance as far as tweaking his drawings to make them more tattooable? I know you're working kind of a traditional style, so you probably do you feel like you kind of encourage your apprentices to draw in a more traditional style?
I do now. Back then I actually wasn't doing traditional. Like I feel like a lot of traditional artists that I know, back then we were all like, oh, we want to do new school. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the bigger name traditional artists actually started doing new school. Scott Sylvia, for an example. You know what I mean? Like everybody because even then I feel like new school and traditional were close. Like if you go back in like the early 2000s, you look at what a traditional tattoo looked like. It was very had a new school feeling to it. You know what I mean? Like Cherry Creek Flash, like stuff like that. You see that it had because people didn't really quite understand how to get that traditional feel of a tattoo. But with Evan, like I actually really disliked traditional at that point.
Really?
Yeah, and it grew on me. With him, like he actually helped me as much as I helped him.
How so?
Like he introduced me to a lot of artists I didn't know, and he had just got out of he was still in high school, so a lot of those art basics that I kind of forgot, like he was like, hey, you remember this, or color theory of this, and I was kind of like, man, it's been so long, and so both me and him kind of like stepped back and started like doing more, like looking at, like I think I bought Gunner's book, like an art basics for tattoo artist book, and we kind of went through that and kind of like, and it really helped me like push my stuff, because at this point I didn't start tattooing when I was 25, so I was already like 7 years out of high school. You know what I mean? So and I went to vocational school, and I took commercial and graphic arts for like 2 years, but I just kind of forgot all of that. So so things that by having him as an apprentice actually helped me. So we both kind of worked together to both of us improve, like for him to learn, but for me to improve. So like when so it's like that for me, because like I said, I had no clue how to apprentice somebody, and I never thought I would even apprentice anybody. Because I felt like I was still learning myself. It's really hard to say I'm going to teach somebody how to tattoo when you feel like, man, I have so much more to learn. And I mean now with the amount of people there's people who are apprenticing people who don't even do good tattoos in the first place. And then that person's apprenticing somebody. So now we have a whole list of just crappy tattoo artists that are coming out of that. And that was one of my biggest fears, honestly. It was like, okay, I don't feel like I'm where I need to be at yet. Now I'm apprenticing somebody. Am I going to hold him back? You know what I mean? Am I, because I'm not on that level where I feel very, very comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
So that was my biggest fear, you know, and I mean, obviously he's turned out amazing.
Oh, yeah, he's doing,
you know,
doing
I mean, I can't take credit for a lot. I mean, that's him, you know what I mean? Like, he puts a lot of heart and drive in what he does, and that's what pushed, you know, and that's what, you know, I tell a lot of, like, the younger artists I talk to, it's the same thing. How bad do you want it? Is this your career? You should spend every waking moment that you can drawing, learning, you know what I mean? And any kind of, even art basic stuff, anything that you feel like is going to, you know, influence you to be a better artist, because there's a lot of really good artists out there. If you're not on that level,
so many now.
You know what I mean? If you're not even close to that level, you're just going to fall off, you know, and that's the big thing right now. I feel like, I mean, like you know, we kind of hit on it before we were recording, like, even, you know, 15 years ago when I started tattooing, like, that's when Guy Aitchison was kind of like coming up through it. Like, he made, like I look at him, it was like there's Sailor Jerry, there's Guy Aitchison, because I feel like they both changed the game. Like, they changed, even though like Guy was just doing the biomech stuff, like he like bringing in color theory, lighting, like, you know, all of that stuff started changing. That's when I remember I was in Detroit at the Motor City Convention. I see my first like color portrait, and it was like, I don't even remember who did it now, but it was a Wolverine from the X-Men movie. You know what I mean? And I was blown away. I watched that guy for 8 hours that day. Like, I sat there and watched. I was like, wow. And I remember he had a paper plate with like 100 ink caps on it. I was like, this is amazing, you know? And never seen that, you know? So, and a lot of people, like, there was a group around him almost that whole day, because people are like, we've, you know, at that point you had seen color portraits, but not on the level of that, what that was, you know what I mean? Before Nico, Mike DeVere's, like, you know what I mean? Like, Shane O'Neill was like, you know, but he was doing more black and gray at that, you know, obviously at that time. But it's like, I would go to this convention, like, I wasn't even tattooing there. I rented a room to sit by somebody and watch them tattoo all day long to help anything I could pick up at that time. Like, I watched Tom Renshaw do two wolves on a guy's back, and I sat there all day and watched him. And it was crazy, because he's like Chuck Norris, big, and he's like so delicate, you know what I mean? Like, when his arms are so huge, and you're watching him tattoo, and you watch him tattoo so delicate, and you're like, this is kind of like mind blowing, you know? Like, but I remember, like, one of the guys that really, like, didn't really influence me, but I thought his work was amazing at that time, was Bugs. And like, you don't hear a lot about him now.
You don't anymore.
Like,
he was back for whatever reason. Like, when the digital age happened, he didn't transition to digital. Like, he was in every magazine, and then suddenly when it all went to online, it's like, what happened to that guy? He was everywhere.
I mean, don't know what happened. What's like one of the like Ink Nation, was it Ink Nation? No, that was the Joshua Carlton one. The other one, it had hot ink. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was a website. It was like the thing. Like, especially around 2003 until probably like 2008, 2009. Like, you wanted to be hot ink. Like, that was the thing. Like, they had a whole thing, and people would criticize you worse than you've ever seen in your life. But it was the best thing, because people would post on you could post on this, like, it was kind of like a forum kind of deal, and you could post the tattoo you did that day, and they could like rate it on what they thought was the tattoo, what they, and then people would just tear you apart. Like, I mean, it was never nice, I promise you. Unless you were like somebody who was just like on top of the game, those people got nice stuff. But if you were on anywhere below that, they would just rip you apart. Like, you know what I mean? And but it was great, because whoever got the most stars for that day would be posted on the front of the webpage for hot ink of the day. And like, that's what started everything. And then it started falling off. Then Joshua Carlton started Ink Nation. Like, I don't know if you guys know about any of this stuff. But Ink Nation was,
I've never heard of.
Ink Nation was similar to that, but it was kind of on a different level. It was a little bit more polished, I guess. But I felt like it fell off really quick. Like, so, but since then, there's never been nothing. And I keep saying, if this would come back, it would be so good, because people need to be criticized. Like, people need to know. People don't need to be assholes about it, but I feel like I said, like, if nobody's criticizing you, you don't know what you're not doing right. And that's the biggest thing to me. Like, you only can get better by somebody telling you what you're doing wrong, or seeing something that maybe you're not seeing. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it might be you're messing that up every single time, because you just think you're doing it right, until somebody says, why are you doing that? That doesn't look right, you know? And then you're like, oh. You know, but
absolutely. I think you brought up a good point before we started recording. That people, a lot of times, people want. artists a lot of times are sensitive, so they're sensitive to like to critique other artists. They don't want to hurt feelings or step on toes. And I've felt the same thing all the way through art school. You know, you sit in a drawing class all day, you draw a still life. At the end of the day, you put it up on the wall, and everybody's like, "Oh, I really like how it looks like your light source is pretty consistent all the way through." It's like, I didn't draw it to hear that. Like, what do you not like about it? What could I have done better about it? And that's one thing that I think people feel like they're being mean when they critique. And so it comes from both sides. You both have to learn to take criticism and to give criticism, or no one's better off.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. Like, obviously, don't be an asshole about it. Sure. You know what I mean? But if somebody, you know, like I said, like I usually, if somebody says anything to me, I'm like, listen, are you going to get mad about this? Let me be honest with you to help you. I'm not here to be a dick to you. Like, I want you to be better. I want everybody to be better. I want everybody to be, you know, like, where there's just so many people that are just killing it that you can't pinpoint one person, you know? But like you go back to like 2001, 2000, there was a handful of artists that everybody's like, these are the guys. Now there's like hundreds of guys that are like out there. Like, I mean, I hear about somebody new every day. I see their work, I'm like, that's amazing. Like, I just can't keep up with it. You know what I mean? At this point,
it's like, how did I not know about that guy? Like, oh, there's 1,000 of them, just like Yeah, there's so many of them, and you look at them and you go like, oh, why isn't this guy bigger than he is? And that, you know, that's great. And I think that you were talking about art. It could go one of two ways, I guess, because the more artists like that get into it, the more difficult it is for people that aren't putting the work in to make a name and to make a living doing it. But the more crappy artists that are putting out crappy artists, and the more and the less educated that the public is, they don't understand the difference between good and bad tattoos. And then you probably have. I know there are areas of the country that are still kind of stuck in this rut of just shitty tattooers and shitty clientele, but clientele that doesn't know the difference. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, even like my hometown is the same way. I feel like people don't understand. Like even my hometown, like we have people who mess people up on a daily basis. People come into our shop, and because we're $100 more expensive than this guy, they just don't get it. I'm like, but look at it, put it next to that, you know. And I tell people all the time when they walk in my shop, like, even if you don't get tattooed here, even if you think my price is too high, this is what to look for. And I'll pull my portfolio out and I'll like, look at the line work, look at the shading. Like if you go to this other shop, you know, if you're trying to get lettering, you should see clean line work, because if not, your lettering's gonna be jacked, you know. I'm like, I charge what I charge because I have quality. It's like going to you either go to Walmart and buy a pair of shoes, or you go to Foot Locker and buy a pair of shoes. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. Like, but people don't understand, because some people are just like, they just like the fact that they have a tattoo. They don't care how crap it is. They just want the tattoo. Like, so they don't care, and they want it for nothing. And that. And you know, honestly, by charging more, I get the best clients compared to the people I don't even want a tattoo. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
You get people that walk in the door that they're like, you know what, I'm happy that you go down to that shop that's going to charge you $30. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to deal with you, you know, and you're never ever going to understand what a quality tattoo is. And so I mean, it's like the whole scratcher thing. It's like, you know, there's always been this thing, but it's existed longer than all of us have. You know, we're never ever going to stop it. It's just never going to happen. Like everybody fought for so long. I just feel like I mean, not saying just let it go, but you're never going to stop it. Like, you know.
I think more than anything, what you're doing and what we're trying to do here, and educating not only up and coming tattooers, but educating the public and the difference between good and bad tattoos. How to evaluate. We have episodes on how to evaluate a portfolio. You know, what to look for at your artist station, what to bring to a consultation, things like that. Like what should you be confident in during a consultation, and what control should you give up? And I think the more that we can educate people, the more that they'll help to weed out the artists that don't need artists that don't need to be in it.
And I think that's the whole thing, is like more people who help each other, and we get bigger. Just like you were saying before, eventually those shops are going to fall out, because they're not going to be able to make any money, because everybody's going to understand, hey, this is what I should be getting, and this is what I got. And that happens a lot to me. Like, I get people who've gotten tattooed at other shops. They come in and get one tattoo, and then now they're addicted. Even though they have 10 tattoos, they'll come back 10 times in the next month, because they realize, oh my God, this is what a good tattoo is. You know, and as soon as people realize that, they're more excited about their tattoo, because they walk away not having to nitpick seeing lines that are like, you know, crooked, or you know what I mean, just like imperfections in their tattoo that they feel like they feel like that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Like they feel like those imperfections, oh well, I can't get what's on Ink Masters because I live in this area, or I can't afford that, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like it's and it's like, and that's why I'm like, a lot of artists do hourly, and I do hourly because the town that we're from is not a very wealthy town. But I'm like, listen, come in and get a sleeve. We'll do the line work. That's going to be a session. But if you want to come back and only do an hour or two, and that's all you can afford, at least you have, at the end of the day, you're going to have this really nice piece. Maybe it's going to take you a year to get it, but at least you're going to have something that you're going to be proud of for the rest of your life, and not be like, man, I got this crappy tattoo because all I had was $100. Right. You know what I mean? So
we always tell David, my co-host, brought this up. I used to hear him tell clients this a lot, and I started using it. But people will always come in. I'm sure you've heard it. They'll be like, well, I want to get this, but eventually I want a sleeve. And what we always tell them is like, look, for the same amount of time that it takes me to line, shade, and color this, I could line an entire sleeve. And then you have to start to something that is significant, and then we can start to work on it as you can.
That's exactly what I do to people, because like I do a lot of, actually I do more probably Japanese traditional, I do American traditional, but I do both. I mean, I'm hoping like within the next few years that all I'm going to do is Japanese traditional. That's where I'm going for. I got a few back pieces, sleeves and stuff that I'm working on. But that's my selling point to a lot of those people, because doing traditional, it's just piece by piece by piece, and you don't know what you're going to do to fill in this. And when I tell people, like, if you want a sleeve, designing it all at once is going to, you know what I mean? Like it's going to be the nicest tattoo, rather than trying to piece. And so I'm like, listen, if you piece your whole arm together, it's going to cost you way more than just getting a sleeve. Like at the end of the day, you're going to have something that flows together, and you're probably going to spend less money. Because when I do pieces, I charge more. I charge $125 for large work. But if somebody comes in, like if I think it's going to take me an hour, I'm charging $200 for that walk-in piece, rather than you could get, that same piece for $125 if you're doing a large scale thing, and that's what people don't get, because when you say hourly, it instantly scares people, because they're instantly like, well, how many hours is it going to take? I'm like, well, I have no clue. How well are you going to set? How much detail is it going to be into it once we get it all, once it's all drawn and ready to go? Like, I can't give you that, but I can give you the guarantee that if you want to come in and do 2 hours at a time, I'm willing to do that after the outline's done. So, and then that's what I told him, like, once it started, I'll have a better idea of how long it's going to be. But people can't, that unknown really bothers them. Like, you know what I mean? Especially for, I mean, like, if you've been tattooed, once you get over that and you've gotten tattooed and you've gotten a large tattoo, it just makes so much more sense to you. But people who have only got little tattoos their whole lives, or, the few tattoos they have are small tattoos and they don't understand it, it's really hard to sell them on it, because they don't understand.
And they feel like, I think sometimes they feel like you can take advantage of them when it's a bit larger pieces. Like, oh, was he just dragging his ass to get more money out of me or whatever? To solve that problem, I set a minimum, just a 2 hour minimum, but then I've offer a day rate. It's like, look, I can work, like, my minimum is this, to set up is 2 hours, $250, but to work all day, like, I'll work until you can't sit anymore for $650. And then I'll even provide the back team, and we'll make sure you're comfortable. We'll take as many breaks as you want. That way it's not even a time.
And I think that people are getting more educated. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the shows, but I feel like at least with Ink Masters, like, you're going to see a quality tattoo. Like, with them picking a tattoo apart, people see that and they kind of get a better understanding of what is good and bad, you know what I mean? Like, I've hung out with Oliver multiple times. I have friends that, I'm friends with James Vaughn, and Jim Francis was on the show, Roland. Like, I know all of these guys, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think, besides obviously some of it's scripted, some of it's like bull crap, but I think that if people are just looking for what a tattoo should look like, they can see things on there that they can, like, oh, look, they were talking about this line work, that was this and this and this. So maybe when people come into a shop, they look at a portfolio and they look for those things that they've seen on there. That's what I hope. You know what I mean? That's like my hope, but I feel like it gets to a very small group of people who actually look for that. A lot of people are just watching for the drama, or, you know what I mean? So, but when people come to my shop, I 100% sit down and I try to educate people, because I feel like it's on us to educate people. Even if they don't get tattooed by you, explain to them the whole process, why things are the way they are, so when they walk out, they learn something by being there, and they're a little bit more educated. Even if they don't get tattooed by you, they're going to go into a shop
make a better decision.
Yeah, exactly. And most times they're going to come back anyway.
Yeah.
Because after you pinpoint and you explain to them exactly what they're trying to get and what they're looking for, they're going to go to other shops and be like, shit, I don't want to, like, he said this, and look at these lines, or whatever it is. A lot of times they're going to come back, but some artists just want to feel like they're above everybody else, and they just want to like not like give any extra to the person they're tattooing. Like, I want people to know. Like, I'm fine with people knowing, because I know I do a solid tattoo, so I'm not scared that they're going to look at my tattoo and be like, oh, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, the people who are scared of that are the people who are not educating people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that that's the big thing. Educate people to look for an artist that does what they want. At least like here, you know what I mean? Like, I've had multiple people come up to me like asking me for things that when they look at my portfolio, like, I don't even do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to explain to them, like, look, there's 100 artists in here, and somebody in here does exactly what you're looking for. Go talk to that person, because, and I mean, yeah, I could take your money. I've been tattooing for 15 years. I do everything because I work at a street shop. I don't have the opportunity to nitpick what I'm going to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm like, there's a guy here that's all he does. And that's my biggest thing with people. I want them to know, look for a guy who does that. Even if he lives an hour away from you, even if he lives 2 hours away from you, because that guy, I mean, even at my shop, I do realism a little bit here or there, but I send people to Nashville. Like, I'll send them to Ian White, or I'll send them to Black 13, you know, you know what I mean? Like, those guys do that every day. I do 1 or 2 a year. Like, you know what I mean? Go get tattooed by this person.
Right.
And those that I do are usually on clients that I've tattooed for the last 8 years. You know what I mean? They're like, I don't want to get tattooed by anybody else but you, you know?
Yeah.
But if somebody comes in and asks for that, I send them to the person that I feel like is going to do the best job for them. Because at the end of the day, the money is not the most important thing, you know?
Right.
It's getting somebody a great tattoo, because the few people I've sent other places have came back and gotten tattooed by me.
That's the point I was going to make.
Yeah, because they're like, well, I didn't want what you do right now, but I might want that. And I've had them come back and get tattooed by me because, first of all, I sent them to somebody who did a great job on that. Because if you send them to somebody who's going to just bust them up, they're like, that guy's an idiot. He thought that guy was good. You know what I mean? Like, he sent me to him. So I think it's our responsibility to educate the public and let them, you know, teach them what a good tattoo is. Take time with them. Take an extra 10 minutes out of your day to say, listen, this is what you're looking for.
Yeah, and then it's just not a one-size-fits-all thing. You know, people will say like, oh, so-and-so did an awesome job on my friend's tattoo. You know, like my friend got a koi from him. I want to get my kid's portrait, and you know, it's like, well, man, he did a beautiful koi. That's true, but go through that portfolio and see how many portraits you see. And you know, a lot of people just think it's a one-size-fits-all. If they're good at this, they're probably good at that.
Yeah.
And you know, 20 years ago, that was kind of the case, but it's not anymore.
Right. Yeah. I get that even at home a lot of times. You know, people, you know, like, oh man, you tattoo my friend, and then they want something that's just absolutely not what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I just don't feel comfortable doing it. You know, like. Right. Money is like, that's why I try to like push this to everybody, even my apprentices. Like, I make them work till almost another job to almost 3 years in, because I don't want money to affect quality, because I feel like that's what happens. Young, like, especially being young, 20, 21, you start making $500-600 a week, and that's the most money you've ever made in your life, and that becomes more important than the quality of the tattoo you're doing. And I see that happen all the time, and so that's why I just push. I'm like, listen, money is not number one. Number one is the tattoo that you're doing. Right. The money is just the bonus at the end of all of that. Like, you know
it'll
what I mean?
come.
Yeah.
If you take the approach the way that you're explaining it, you will make the money eventually.
Right. I think that, and that's the problem. Like, I see people, and it blows my mind, that do terrible tattoos and make more money than I do. I'm like, how are you making so much money? Because they are trying to pump them out as fast as they can get them out. They're doing half-ass jobs, or not, even worse than that. I've seen scratcher style work coming out of shops that are making a killing. And I'm like, why? Why is that? You know what I mean?
It goes back to educating the public, just what you've been talking about this entire time.
You know, and I think that, like I said, like, we all as artists can bitch about it, but if we're not doing anything to change it, we have no reason to bitch. You know, and that's my whole thing. It's like, you know, like, it's even with, you know, kids that are coming into the industry. Yeah, there's been like an overwhelming amount of apprenticeships, and that's why we've had even a bigger overwhelming amount of bad shops. And just that, like I think that I read a survey. It was from like 2010 in New York City in 1998. There was 200 tattoo artists in New York City, and in 2010 there was 2,000.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and everybody's like, oh well, these shows, so aren't you making more money? As I was like, well, no, because like, you know, the amount of shops now have quadrupled from when I started tattooing until now. Even in the last, like, you know, 10 years, like, you know what I mean? The town I live in now, when I moved there, I got a job offer at a shop. Moved there was 2 shops in town. This is 2007, right? By 2010, there was 8 shops.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
What's the population there?
Our population is probably maybe 100,000 when school's in. Tennessee Tech's there, so we have like 50,000 students at least. So you know what I mean? Like, it's
so 8 shops for 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, which, however many get tattooed, some small fraction of that gets.
I mean, it's dropped down. I think we're at 6 now. Maybe it fluctuates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you'll get somebody who thinks they can run a shop. They come in, they last less than a year, and they're gone. You know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what's hurt our industry is. Because, like I said, like these artists who are apprenticing people, and that person's apprenticing somebody, now they're like, oh, we can open a shop. So then they start apprenticing people to fill that shop. Now you have 6 people who just got apprenticed by one shitty guy.
Right.
And now all these people are licensed, and they're all like, oh, well, I'm going to own a shop, because everybody wants to own a shop. It's like, oh, I want to own my own shop. I've never wanted to own a shop. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I like my freedom. I like to know that I can come and go whenever I want, no responsibility. And also you lose focus on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to own a shop and tattoo, I feel like you're not putting, like, when you're going to tattoo, you can't do anything else but tattoo. Like, you have to put 100% to that. I mean, you can do less, but you're also, that's going to show.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's going to, like, all of the guys who have just stopped, you know what I mean? Guys that I started that back when I started tattooing were who I thought was amazing, and they just, like, fell off. Like, they're still doing what they did in 2001, and they haven't, like, stepped up to the game. You know what I mean? Like, you have to evolve all the time. Like, that's our industry. If you're not evolving, you're falling off, you know? And there's just so many artists. I could name a ton of them that we all probably know who now, kids who are 20, 21, who are apprenticing, have no clue who that person is.
Yeah.
Like, I walked into a shop with apprentices, and I was like, you know who Guy Ashton is? They're like, who's that? You know what I mean? And I was like, your mentor should be teaching you who got.
Right.
Like, I bought the guided tattooing book when it came out. I still have a 3-ring binder, like, just you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every one of my apprentices I forced to read that book. I'm like, read it. I'm like, even if it's not what we're doing, it's just the fact that
principles all apply.
And I'm all about tattoo history. Like, tattoo history that's who we are. That's where we started. That's where it all began. Even if you're not a traditional artist, you should go back and, you know, read about, you know, like Sailor Jerry, Philadelphia Eddie, Burt Grimm. You know what I mean? Those guys, they stepped in a lot of shit to get to help us get where we are. You know what I mean? When they were the bastard childs. You know, now it's gotten to where it's a lot easier for all of us. But back then, I mean, you're talking like 1920, 1930. Like, imagine being a tattoo artist at that time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know. But that's why, like, I feel like if you don't know where it all came from, you can't, you know, respect what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, like, I feel like, you know, Sailor Jerry was like, I'm going to consider this more of an art form. He pushed what it was to what it became. And then I feel like there's people that's been along the line, but like I said, I feel like Guy Ashton was a big push to where we're at now. I feel like
he started breaking a lot of rules that what we thought were like must follow rules, line, shading, color. He started to mix things up, to build textures, to like.
Yeah, it was like him. Like, I remember, like, when I got that book and him taking pictures of like skulls and like putting moped parts in. Like, I wasn't really into biomech at all.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was like painting this before he even tattooed it, like it just like sent a signal through my brain that, oh man, I could, like, all that art that I did prior to this is tattooable now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think, and then people just took that and just ran with it. And the things we're seeing right now are just off the chain. You know what I mean? The amount of like just amazing like actual artwork. I feel like it all kind of came from that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like I look at people who have stepped up things, you know, like when Mike DeVere's Nico, like they stepped up that color portrait game to a whole nother level, you know what I mean? And then it's just it keeps going up. But there's that one big person that turns the whole wheel in a whole different direction. And I don't know. I mean, I love tattooing. I think that people should. I love our community. It's a family. Like doesn't matter who you meet. You walk into this, we're all friends. When you walk in that door, we all do the same thing. Well, there's no animosity towards each other. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like younger kids coming in, like they need to understand where the building blocks of why it got here and why and how they should act towards other artists. And you know, it's like I have a kid that I tattooed today. He's not my apprentice. He's apprenticing under somebody else who's not here, but he was still here. And you know, like I told him the same thing. You know, I was like, this is a family. Like, you know, like in 2003, my shop got robbed when I was in Ohio. Everything, tubes, machines, like the whole shop. There was nothing left. We came in. It was on Christmas Day. I came in to make a certificate, and everything was gone.
Oh man!
And the outcry of people who helped us out is incredible. Like it was during MySpace. We posted, "Hey, we just got robbed." You know, we were basically posting it locally for, "Hey, if anybody heard anything?" You know, and instantly Kingpin called me. "Hey, Doug King," like he called me. He's like, "What do you guys need?" I was like, "Well, we have nothing." He's like, "I'll see what I can send you." Send us a whole box of clip cords, foot switches. You know what I mean? Ink, like, you know what I mean? Joshua Carlton contacted him and Jamie both contacted me like, "Hey, I'll build you a couple machines. What do you want?" You know what I mean? Like all of these people like just like outpoured, and I was like, and I was really young in the tattooing, 2-3 years in, and I was like blown away by just like how much of a family it was.
That's
like,
incredible.
You know, I personally didn't know any of these people. Like I never met Josh, never met Jamie. Like, and later on I met both of them at like 5 years after all of this happened. But
did they remember doing all that for you?
Yeah, like it was, you know, but like within 3 days they caught the people and got everything back. So you know what I mean. So I was like, "Hey, listen,
so
we're
who
good."
was it? Were they trying to sell it, or they were trying?
So there was like 2 kids. There were 3 kids. They were like 17 years old, and they kicked the door so hard in the front that it actually broke the deadbolt out of the wall. You know what I mean? Like split that 2x4, and then they carried everything through the back because the street light was in the front, but on the side road where there was no street light. So they busted a window out of clearing the back, and were carrying everything out that window. And then, so like, they started like splitting it up. Like they would put a machine, a needle, a bottle of ink, and they were selling to all of these kids. So when we posted on MySpace, this one kid's like, "I know who did it." You know, and we're like, "Well, come into the shop. Don't say anything on here. Come in." And then we got a call from a dad. He's like, "Hey, I heard that this." He's like, "My son has this," and he like brought his son in. He's like, "You need to apologize to these people," right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just broke him down like right in front of us, you know.
So his son was one of the ones that actually stole.
He wasn't. He just bought that stuff. Yeah, and then once we found out, because the cops were like, "We can't do nothing. We don't have any fingerprints." Like they were basically like, you know, "You guys are screwed," you know. And we're like, "Listen, this is what we have. This person, this person, this person, this person." They just started pulling the one girl that was involved. They pulled her over. She was actually speeding, and they're like, "Oh wait, what's your name?" And they checked it, and like she still had all the stuff sitting in her back seat.
Oh wow!
Like all the piercing stuff was in her car, like in the back seat, and they just like scooped it all up. You know what I mean?
Man,
and I was blown away because
crazy.
You know
at
this point, how many people I know have gotten robbed and have never seen their stuff ever again. You know what I mean? And for that, and just by at that point it was MySpace posting one thing. Just like, you know what I mean? Like,
and having a community of people that responded like that. That's
I mean, and that's my main thing. It's like, you know, like the young kids that are coming in, like I just want them to like respect the people who have came before you. Even if you think that their work is not on the level that this guy is, without this guy would not exist. So like, and I think that people like they just don't understand that, you know. And like, it's like I told them, like I worked really hard. My apprenticeship was very, you know, very basic. Like my mentor taught himself, so he really had a hard time. He didn't really know how to teach me. So I went to every convention. I went to the first Hell City. I went to Detroit every year, and I would rent a room, pay to be there, and I would just watch people tattoo. I remember I came back. This was probably 2002, and I came back with 1-inch grips, 9 mags, and I came to the shop, and they thought I was nuts. They're like, "Why do you need that big old tube? That's crazy. You know, why are you using 9 mags?" At that time, we were using Type 5s and 7 mags for everything. So the guys in my shop were like shitting themselves, like, "Why do you need that big ass needle?" You know, I'm like, dude, Jimmy Litwalk's using this.
Right.
Like if he's using that, it's got to be right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, but it was just by watching people, I was like, oh, he's using this, and I would, and I would ask, and sometimes people would, respond, but at that time, everybody was like this, hush hush.
Yeah.
Nobody told you anything. You know what I mean? If you got tattooed by them, sometimes they would give you a little bit, or they would lie to you completely, and you'd go home. Like at one point, like I was like, everybody was like really doing like a lot of soft, like I would say around 2004, 2005. Like it was just like things were like people were using bigger mags. Things looked really soft. Couldn't ever figure out like what do they do? Because at this point I'm still using 9 mags. Didn't have a clue. And I was at a convention and I asked this guy, I looked at his this is really amazing. He's like, oh yeah, I just cut all my inks down with water, half and half. I'm like, oh really? So I'm going back trying this. I'm seeing tattoos come back like faded, all gone, and I'm like, this asshole lied to me. You know what I mean? But it's like I was like, man, I tattooed like 20 people with watered down ink. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn, that, But I mean, and
that was the way it was at that point.
Yeah. It's like nobody was giving you anything.
Yeah.
And then Joshua Collins makes videos.
Yeah.
Brandon Bond starts making videos, and it just became like, which is a good and a bad thing. You know what I mean? I feel like. Because those videos become viral, and every scratcher in town now has that video.
We get a lot of that same feedback. It's kind of mixed match, because we try to preach to people the importance of getting a proper apprenticeship and having some type of an art background, and people will get responses on our videos like, who the hell do you think you're even talking to? It's all just a bunch of scratchers that are following everything that you're saying. Like, well, if that's the case, hopefully they have the respect to listen to what we're saying.
I think no matter what you do when it comes to the tattoo industry, that's going to be the case.
Right.
Like, I don't think that you can ever stop that. I don't think that if you want to get anything out to the masses, you're also going to get out to the people that are tattooed out of their house.
Right.
I mean, the problem is the people who are selling them equipment. That's where it all starts. We have a place in our town that sells tattoo equipment to anybody.
Really?
Yeah. And even though now in Tennessee they passed a law where if you get caught with equipment, it's against the law. Like if you're not a licensed artist, you have equipment, they can arrest you.
Right.
So when that law passed, like I've been trying to fight it ever since then. I'm like, this is crap. If they can't own it, why are you allowing these people to sell it?
Yeah.
But there's this little stipulation in the law that says tattoo shops can't sell tattoo equipment, not head shops or whatever else. Like it doesn't like that.
What kind of shop in Cookeville is selling tattoo equipment? Is it a head shop or something? Or?
It's basically like it's called Illusions. I don't care. I'll blast them out. The guy that I started tattooing, like who asked me to do it, he opened this he had this little store. Had no clue that he was selling equipment out of it, and when I got there, I started seeing Eternal. Like I called Eternal, I was like, "You're selling to this guy, and he's selling to scratchers." And I told him, I was like, "Dude, I'm not going to work here if you don't stop selling this right now." So he basically hid everything, and then a year later, all of a sudden, I see it start popping. But he sells whatever Nightmare for Christmas shirts, like just what I mean, like a Hot Topic or Spencer's kind of store.
Yeah.
But he sells it to people.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And that was part of the reason why I quit that shop. I was like, listen, if you're going to do that, I'm out of here. I can't even be involved in this. That's like blacklisting my name all over the place because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but they still sell it, and I've talked to the health department about it a million times. They're like, we can't enforce anything unless we can somehow talk to the police department into enforcing it, even though we have the law there. Even it doesn't affect him because he's got in a loophole.
Yeah.
Put the other shop in his wife's name and the tattoo shop's in somebody else in his name. So they're not technically the same person selling the product. So they're just but I mean, I know Eternal instantly stopped it as soon as we got a hold of them. Because I'm like, listen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that, but it's personal pleasures. I think that's what it's called, right? They sell to anybody. If you have a business license, they'll sell to you.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. It's people are they want money over, just doing the right thing. And that's the whole issue.
Yeah.
If we could stop people from selling, if we could stop the eBay selling, if we could stop all of that, we would end that. But is it ever going to stop? No, because people are money hungry and any way they can make $1 off somebody.
Yeah.
And when you can go on eBay and buy a tattoo machine for $5.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People don't know.
We're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what I'm saying. That's never going to end. That's never going to end. You know what I mean? No matter how hard we try. And trust me, I was I've tried to, in my own town, stop it. If I see somebody that's doing it, our health department will go they will send the cops out. If I find somebody that's like posting on Facebook or anything that they're tattooing out of their house, as soon as I call my health department, they'll send the police out there. You know, yeah. I mean, like they're trying to stop it. It's an uphill battle that's never gonna. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we just got to accept it. And I know it's sad to say, but it's really true.
And just continue to educate people. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, and then most of the times, those people who are getting tattooed by that person is never going to walk in my shop and get a tattoo.
Yeah.
Because they could trade this guy a 6-pack of beer, even though it's going to be a crappy tattoo. Yeah. It's like they're cool with it. Yeah. It's like you ever watch that movie, The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia?
I haven't seen
No?
it.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's a documentary on this family from West Virginia. They're the thing, like the one nephew's tattooing his aunt or whatever and spells something wrong on her. You know what I mean? But those type of people are never coming in your shop and never spending money. Right. We're not losing anything by actually having scratchers tattoo people. Right. Because those people that are getting tattooed by them, if you're a legit shop, don't even care about tattooing those people.
Right.
And if you're so money hungry that you want this person that's willing to spend $40, $50 to get a tattoo.
You anyways.
Yeah, it's like you're not doing great work because you know, if you do good work, people come in and get tattooed by you. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no bullshit about that. Like, if you're doing a solid tattoo, you're always gonna make money. You know, like, if you're not, then you're the one that's crying on the sideline saying, "Oh, I ain't making no money." I'm like, well, look at your portfolio.
Yeah, put some work in.
Or look at your attitude. Look at the things that you're posting. Like, if you're all the time posting bullshit on Facebook or just like bitching about something, people, if they're following you, they're not going to come get tattooed by you. And it's like it's a business. I mean, at the end of the day, like, what we do is a business. And if you know, it's just like anything. You're not going to go to somebody who you feel like instantly they're an asshole. Right. Why are you going to go spend your money and get tattooed by that person? If you see their posts or whatever, how they come across, those people are like, I ain't going to that guy. I have people come to my shop all the time, talk shit about people, and I'm like, you ever got tattooed by him? No. I just see his posts.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's an asshole. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, but...
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
I mean, I think that people just need to realize it's not 1970, 1980 anymore. You can't be an asshole. Everybody walks in the door because you're the only shop in town. When you were the only shop in town, people had no choice but to deal with you. Now, there's 7 other shops in town, so they're like, well, you're an asshole. I'm going to go to this shop.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I see people also on the exact opposite, is that somebody does completely terrible work, but they're a nice guy. They keep going back to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you getting tattooed? You know you're getting a tattoo, but he's so nice. Right. And I'm like, really? I'm like, so it's cool to have something that looks like shit on you forever because the guy's nice? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can find a shop where somebody's going to be really nice to you and do a great tattoo on you. Right. So I think that educating is like, that's all we can do. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said before, if it's on us as artists to change it. If you're just gonna take people's money and not explain to them why they're getting a better tattoo and you just send them out the door every single time,
not doing anyone a favor.
No, you're not, because they're like, I don't understand. I paid $200 for this tattoo. I don't understand why I paid $200. And
folks.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, you know, like they don't understand why they're paying $200 when they go, like, we just had that. Honestly, this just happened this week. We have, you know, the garage sale sites on Facebook. Like, I get people put my name in those things all the time. I never respond to that because I'm like, if you're on a garage sale site looking for a tattoo, you're an idiot. Right. First of all. But anyway, they were like, they came into our shop, got a price for a tattoo, and then they were like, well, we went to this shop. Like, I think our quote was like $250. This other shop's quote was like $100. And they're like, what? You know, what's the difference? Why is this $100? Why is this $250? Right? And another guy works for me. He's like, took 3 tattoos that we did, and then almost the exact tattoos that they did. He's like, and he put, you know, stitched them together. He's like, this is why. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, look at this to this. You know, would you rather spend the extra $150 and get this, or would you rather spend the $150 less and get that? You know what I mean? Like, it's, but I think
that out over the balance of your life that you're gonna have that tattoo.
Yeah, it's like
to a day.
I mean, I do cover-ups every single week. Yeah. Every week I do, you know, 3 to 4 cover-ups, and I'm like, and those people obviously once they realize, oh, I got a bad tattoo, I want to get it covered up, they're never gonna get another bad tattoo.
Yeah.
But it took them getting a crappy tattoo. Then now it's more work for me to try to cover up than it would have been if they were just came in, and they're paying for it twice.
Right.
You know, and I think that, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think it's all on us to change it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like I said, every person I tattoo, I try to educate. Why are you paying $500 for this tattoo? This is why.
Right.
You know? And, you know, and I was like, go look at every portfolio in town, and then come back and tell me what you saw. You know, like it. But yeah, I don't know what else.
No, absolutely.
I guess I'm dragging that on, really.
Absolutely. I think you're exactly right. Where do people go if they want to get tattooed? If they want to find you, where's the best place?
Well, Rik Sharp Tattoos at Gmail. That's RIK Sharp Tattoos at Gmail, or that's my email if you want to like. And same thing for Facebook, Instagram, Rik Sharp Tattoos. Yeah,
Rik Sharp Tattoos.
Yeah.
And Cookeville is kind of in between Nashville and Chattanooga.
Knoxville.
Nashville and Knoxville.
Yeah, it's on 40. 40 goes into whatever.
Right.
You go from Nashville to Knoxville, you're gonna go right through my town.
Right.
Like we're an hour from, like hour and 10 minutes from Nashville, hour and 20 from Knoxville.
Okay, right there.
We're like 2 hours from
I've driven
Chattanooga.
through there.
Yeah.
Man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Everybody check out Rik's work. He's doing great work. Appreciate
Thank you
your
guys.
time, man.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, dude, that was awesome, man. Thank you.
Hope I didn't drag it out too much.